If you're a member of PlayStation Plus, you just got access to ARCADEGEDDON by IllFonic. This game has been in an early review cycle for quite some time over at the Epic Games Store. It is finally now released for the PlayStation 5, and I fell in love with it instantly. I easily played it 5 hours straight yesterday, and I gotta admit, it's a lot of fun. I can only imagine it's gonna be even more fun when I actually play with friends and people that I know, as opposed to just a random group of people online, but I still had fun with it too. This game features a killer soundtrack, amazing third-person gunplay, and a very simple and refreshing loot and reward system that will have me hooked at least for some time. Based on what I have read from people who have been in the early access and beta testing it, it does seem like everything you see is what you get in terms of there's no new further unlocks or guns, and at that point it just becomes almost of a point in a time challenge, which is kind of meta because that's what the game is actually about. It's by IllFonic. They have had some checkered past with releases in the past, and the game is about them basically going up against larger corporations and trying to build a fan base in order to sustain their game. Yes, it's guised under the fact that there's an evil corporation taking over all the arcades, and there's a single arcade left in which you are a champion of and trying to fight back against the system. But it's very clearly a parody on, you know, the little guy taking on the big guy, which is kind of funny. And I can understand some of the references, obviously, and I can also appreciate the fact that there's a lot of indie games out there really competing for your time and potentially your money, if you do decide to buy some of the microtransactions in way of cosmetic upgrades that this game offers. But you don't need to. You could if you want to, but you don't need to. As I said, it's a third-person looter shooter that has two basic game modes. There's the adventure mode, which is a story where you walk around and talk to various NPCs within the arcade hub, working to align yourselves with all these rival gangs in order to take out this big evil corporation. And then there's the multiplayer tower climb mode where you progressively fight tougher and tougher and tougher enemies. Both game types really revolve around the exact same type of gameplay. You're shooting, you're looting, and you're bossing. There are challenges that you have to partake in order to progress the story, or the same challenges could be done in multiplayer, and challenges might be something like use your special move 10 times or kill 200 of this enemy, whatever it happens to be. And you could do both of those in parallel. So to say that it's like a true story where you're going to get this rich dialogue and lots of great cutscenes, that's not really true. It's just something to continue to progress at, to kind of drive you to try different things and to continue to play the game. And I don't know like what the satisfying ending of the story is. I haven't beaten it yet. Obviously, I just got it yesterday. But I could say that the characters popped. It was all fully voiced. It was funny. It was kind of edgy for what it was. But I don't think people are going to be flocking to this game for the story. And that's good, because they're going to be flocking to it for the gameplay, which is the best part, obviously. As I said, you're going to be able to progress in either mode, really. The idea is, as with all roguelites, it's to get stronger and more powerful by investing in things that make your next run even better. You can buy clothes, which are just purely cosmetic. You can do a lot of character customization that's available, but most people are going to spend their time on upgrading what the game calls plugins or surges, which are basically perks that lead into next battles, progressively things like you'll always have more health, or your melee has a chance to do more damage. And then the surges, which are like your ultimate move, where after you build up enough damage, you can unleash a devastating attack to do a ton of damage to an enemy. And you're going to be able to unlock a lot of both of the plugins and the surges, and then continue to invest points in them to get them even higher. So instead of a fireball doing 10 damage, it does 20 damage, or whatever it happens to be. You get the idea. That's obviously a big loop of it. Additionally, each individual weapon you pick up has its own level system, which can level and become stronger. The more variety of guns you use allows you to have them as a starting weapon in your loadout, so you're not just stuck with kind of the crappy weapon nobody wants, which is a very basic light gun and a baseball bat. You'll be able to start with your favorite devastating weapon. And in the 5 or so hours I played last night, I was able to unlock a machine gun, which made my subsequent run significantly more fun, especially if I was playing by myself, because you're not running around with just a very weak weapon waiting to find some loot to like actually get better. The actual game, what you're doing, involves a very simple, straightforward progression system. You're going to start off in an arena and you'll work your way through a series of rooms, which may require, obviously you can go around and break barrels and find loot and money and continue to level up your character that way. But you're going to be doing different tasks. They're very simple. Stand on this point for 2 minutes while enemies attack, unlock doors using different keys, or kill specially marked enemies on the map. Nothing challenging here. It's just an exercise that gets you moving. It keeps the game flowing. As an aside, if you are playing a multiplayer with other people, the game will teleport you to the party if you're taking a little too long. So if you're one of these people that really wants to just take your time and explore every little nook and cranny of the map, not that you're going to find really anything insane. I'm not talking like stuff like in Tiny Tina where you're going to find like a loot die or something hidden in the world. But if you just really want to just go slow, just play by yourself for a while, because when you get into that multiplayer space, the game does move a lot faster and it may pass you by. So just keep that in mind. But as you work your way through all these various dungeons, and eventually you get to this hub area, and the hub area is a place where you can rest. You can spend all the money that you have to buy more health, or buy a random selection of perks or a random selection of weapons. You could also play this challenge battle mode where 2 players, it's like basically like a mini PvP mode that just takes place right in the middle of the game. Additionally, you can pay money to increase the difficulty of the loop and kind of fast forward through the loop significantly faster than just playing it and getting the difficulty uptick each time. The higher the difficulty, the more rewards, obviously, but the harder the enemies, the better the multipliers for your points. It's a risk-reward system. The problem with this system, though, is a lot of people are just going to spend their money on it, not really understanding it. And you can essentially get locked out of a run with 3 people, or it's a group of 4 people, but one of the 4 people could just spend so much money, raise the difficulty for everyone, even if you're not geared enough, and make the run incredibly difficult. You will hit a wall at some point. That is part of the progression. The idea, obviously, is that you're going to rinse, repeat, upgrade your perks, upgrade your surges, get more powerful, re-enter the fray again, and get stronger and better, and continue to do this until you're the master of ARCADEGEDDON, right? That's kind of how the loop works. When you get to the end, you'll fight a boss. The bosses aren't anything spectacular. They're basically just giant punching bags. They don't really necessarily have multiple phases or anything. They'll spawn an insane amount of ads that constantly have to be destroyed for money. There are power-ups laying around where you can pick up health and gun, ammo to continue fighting. And the system works. The problem is the higher difficulty, these bosses become total punching bags. And we were playing, and I know we were definitely like outpowered in terms of like, we had invested so much. I think we were like a times 11 or times 12 multiplier on our second loop. The boss fight took us, I think it was like 35 minutes. And it was just because no one could really do that much damage. And it was just constantly running around and collecting power-ups and waiting until our surges were ready to do some extra damage. It was fun because, the combat's fluid. I'll talk about that in a second. But it was fun, but at the same time, it was like, okay, we clearly are probably way in over our heads, but I don't want to let the team down, so we're just going to plow on through. So there's that aspect of it where it's like, well, you know, maybe there is a way that they can kind of gate this, but again, it's going to be dependent on your teammates. And that's why I really think you're going to want to play this game with friends, or at least a friend, so you have a better chance, because I could totally see people hijacking your run by upgrading the difficulty too fast, or by just not being a great team player. And that's the one thing that I think may hold this game back. And look, any game that's a team-based game, you could have a dud teammate. It happens all the time to us, Heroes of the Storm. We just have a dud guy, and we're like, okay, we're going to lose this game. And we just know it going into it because somebody's AFK, or they're not playing right, they're being a troll, whatever. That happens. The difference with Arcadegeddon is because of that difficulty system, where anybody can just invest. It's like, whoa, slow down there, champ. I don't think we're quite ready for ×10 difficulty on the first loop, but that's where it's going to end up. So keep that in mind as you play through it. But when you are playing the game, oh my god, is it good. It's amazing third-person gunplay. All the guns have such a distinct feel to them. They work amazingly well with the DualSense controller, with the haptic feedback that I just adore in this console. Each gun has a distinct recoil feel to it, and vibration, and weapon fire, and spread pattern. And it's going to be fun running around, picking up and finding what your new favorite weapon is. And that's the one thing I like, is there's not a lot of gating here. You're going to open up a chest and you're going to find something. And you might love this gun, you might hate it, but there are more coming. So don't feel like you're absolutely married to the first weapon you find. Since you are allowed a couple weapon slots, which is great, you have the option to cycle through weapons and have a couple alternatives. Typically, you're going to have like your daily driver, and then you're going to have your Galahorn type weapon, for those Destiny fans out there, of some crazy weapon that does insane amount of damage but has a low ammo yield to it. But you're going to be running around and shooting and fighting, and that's really cool. One of the best parts of the game, and something that I absolutely love, because you guys know I love to play healer, and I'm always complaining us healers don't get enough love in these games. You can actually play a much greater support role in this game than I've seen in other games. And you're going to be able to pick up guns that do just that heal and buff your teammates, which is very different for a kind of action combat game. And I like that. I like the idea that you can basically, you know, help out teammates who are low in health, need a shield boost, damage boost, whatever it happens to be. You can be that support role. Now, obviously, it's not full support role. You're going to have to shoot as well. But it's nice to have other options in the toolkit where you're not all just straight damage class, but you're actually kind of breaking off into other support roles. And I think that's a really cool touch, and to me, increases the longevity of a game like this, because it's something I'm much more interested in. As I said at the end of the match, when the boss blows up, it's a loot pinata. Everybody, it's a free-for-all. Grab your new favorite weapon, jump through the portal, and move on to the next match. And I love it. It's a great, simple, fun concept. My biggest gripe is the font on the PlayStation 5 is incredibly tiny, and there is absolutely no way to change this via any accessibility menu. I am almost blind as a bat. I have a hard time seeing as is in good conditions. I cannot, for the life of me, read what half of these guns do. I can squint and kind of make out the basics of what the weapons are telling me, but the HUD is so tiny when you're picking up weapons. It fills up such a small part of the screen that it's almost impossible to tell what's going on. I and many others have complained about this. Obviously, it's day one. However, I am a little nervous because a lot of the players who have been part of this beta and alpha on the Epic Games Store have said this has been a known problem since day one, and the developers, for whatever reason, have decided to not look into the problem. And if that is a deal breaker for some, I totally understand, because I gotta admit, it's almost a deal breaker for me. It's very difficult to look at my quests and even see what I'm trying to do. I had to stand up and walk over from my couch to stand in front of my TV and get really close and like look at like what am I supposed to be doing, and straining my eyes. That was no fun. Once you find a weapon you like, and once you're in the gameplay, thankfully that doesn't matter. Obviously, the next great gun is just one loot drop away, so I'm not here going to say that like you never have to read the screen, but thankfully the action and the combat and the movement is intuitive enough that you're going to have a great time playing it as is. Just be warned, it is very tiny, but I absolutely adore this game. I think IllFonic hit it out of the park. I think this is a great redemption story for them. I think it's a great get for PlayStation Plus members such as myself, and this is a game that I definitely see myself coming back to. This definitely has one more run written all over it. So 2 thumbs up for me on ARCADEGEDDON. Check it out if you have PlayStation Plus. It's free. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.